Arctic air is possibly on the way, along with increasing chances of a December to remember in regards to winter weather chances and cold air. Here to discuss all the details we have on this. My name is Mitch. Good Tuesday morning. Hope you guys are doing well. Subscribe if you haven't. Like the video if you like it. If anybody has anything I can pray about or pray over, please drop it in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling this morning. Let's speak on the time period leading up to December. There'll be timestamps up throughout the video. Take advantage of them. But we're going to speak on Thanksgiving week first. We're going to start off Monday, November the 24th, off with warmer than average temperatures across the entire lower 48. But as we progress forward, we get into Tuesday, we get into Wednesday. Timestamp is up here if you are confused at what day of the week it is. It's getting into Wednesday morning, November the 26th. We got a cold front moving across the middle of the country. So we start to beat down some of these warmer temperatures, and by the time we get into Thanksgiving Day, there is the potential that we could have some colder air. Now, is this going to be Arctic air? I don't think so. More so just a regular kind of run-of-the-mill cold front sweeping across areas of the country. So you see the blue areas. This is colder air. Just think of it like that, slightly below average temperatures. So this makes it all the way into the eastern U.S. And this is the Euro AI model. It's done very well picking up on this first cold front. Now, as we progress closer to the last days of November, the last weekend of November, we continue to deal with below average temperatures potentially across the eastern U.S., which kind of counters what you're seeing from other things like the Climate Prediction Center, but I do think we'll have some changes with that over the next day or so. And then as we're rounding off the month of November, you see a deeper shot of cold air dropping down, and this is Arctic air. You see the purples, things like that. I mean, that's well below average temperatures. Arctic air mass. And, we take it all the way to the morning of December 1st, and we'll stop it right there, and then we'll pick up kind of where we left off with this when we break down December a little bit later in the video. Jump ahead if that's just the only thing you want to hear about. Don't blame you one bit. There's a timestamp up for it. So we'll stop it right there. So between now and, the last day of November, we're watching that one cold front and then the beginning stages of an Arctic air mass. And this is backed up by the Euro too. The time frame's a little different, but the Euro has trended towards the Euro AI model. We take it into Thanksgiving Eve, and here's that colder air moving in, beating down those warmer than average temperatures. This is Thanksgiving. We got a kind of a pool of colder temperatures across the middle of the country. Like I said, is this going to be like just bone-chilling cold? I don't think so. Sort of just a fall cold front or early season winter cold front. And this takes over the eastern U.S. as we get into Black Friday, last weekend of November. And then you can see, just like what the Euro AI model shows, just a little bit slower, Arctic air dropping down to the western U.S. and the high plains. And as we go into the morning of December 1st, you can see there's an Arctic boundary setting up and just a clashing of air masses there. Now, this isn't totally backed up from the Climate Prediction Center. This is the 8 to 14 day temperature outlook, which runs pretty much through next week, all the way through the 1st of December. You can tell there is a battleground of temperatures right in the middle, near normal, above average temperatures predicted here across the eastern U.S. and below average temperatures across the west. I do think this will tweak, and I think some of these warmer colors will kind of get tweaked back, if you will, to the east in the next outlook issued later this afternoon. Any kind of significant storm systems for Thanksgiving? I'm still watching this. I would say I'm a little bit less confident on a high-impact storm system for Thanksgiving week, but I think the potential is there. If you look at the latest Euro, starting off Monday morning, November the 24th, there is some energy down across the south-central U.S. that we need to watch for. Could this be a powerful storm system? It could. And, we take it into Thanksgiving Eve here, and there's a system, and it's right up against some cold air, and you can see by that 540 line introducing some cold air in the upper levels of the atmosphere. Could that moisture hit that cold air? It eventually does, actually, as we get into Thanksgiving Day. But there's a lot of back and forth with this low pressure, but we're starting to think there's at least going to be a storm system. But is it going to be strong? Is it going to be a high-impact storm system? We got to figure out the details of that. But as we're getting into Thanksgiving Day, it does show a lot of messy weather across the northeast areas of the eastern U.S. with that cold air to follow. And, as we're getting into the last Friday of November the 28th, we got some lake effect snows showing up. But all in all the way into, the last day of November, Sunday, does show a big storm system popping off the Rockies into the plains. But, it's over 300 hours out. Hard to take that very serious. And if you look at the Euro AI model, it's only going to show precipitation, not going to show what's snow and what's not. As we get closer, we'll figure out other sites we can look at to really narrow down precipitation types. But we're getting into Tuesday the 25th, a week from today. Shows a system kind of breaking out across the eastern U.S. Nothing high impact about this at all, I don't think. But Thanksgiving Eve, messy weather across the northeast. But really nothing significant as we get into Thanksgiving. You see the greens up here across the Great Lakes. That is likely snow with cold air moving through. I know it, is showing in green, but that's snow. And as we take our way into the last day or two in November, the Euro AI model is showing, and in fact, yeah, we got the latest run, so we're good there. It does show a high impact storm system clashing with some Arctic air that we just showed you for not this coming weekend, but next weekend, the last weekend of November, shows this would be a high impact storm system. We just got to figure out the details and if it's going to happen. We continue to move forward, and all this is backed up by the Euro Ensemble, showing a highlighted area between now and the end of the month of a lot of precipitation across the south. We need this across a lot of areas. But you see the areas in red, stuff like that. That's where we could get multiple inches of precipitation. In this case, this will be rain. As far as snow, if we take it all the way out to Black Friday, November the 28th, you got the signal for snow out west, a little bit of signal across, the northern sections of the country. But watch as we take this through the last 3 days of November, how much this entire area begins to fill in. And that's when I think we'll have a real big shift to colder air. See how that whole entire area filled in, went from showing like dusting amounts to multiple inches of snow. This is not a forecast, but there's a signal for higher chances of winter weather and higher chances of colder temperatures. So now let's pick up. Now this is what probably a lot of people are tuning in for. December. All right, this is Monday morning, December the 1st. We're kicking off a new month. All the pressure is on because a lot of people are talking about December being a big month. There are a lot of people who don't believe it. There's a lot of people hanging on to that hope. I'm here to just keep everything level, right? Along with a lot of other people. So this is the Euro AI model, all right? It's dropping a huge Arctic air mass to kickstart in the month of December right down the middle of the country. And if I extend this, I know you're looking at the east like, we're warmer. But if we continue to move this forward all the way through the entirety of the month, it looks like this cold Arctic air is beginning to ooze east. But this would be an Arctic outbreak if this is ends up being what happened. Now, you might think, well, what does this mean as far as the temperatures? Let's not worry about that right now. Let's try to figure out if this is a legit air mass that's going to drop down. I'm starting to become confident there's going to be a cold front Thanksgiving week, and I'm starting to really think that this is possible. And we'll explain why deeper in the video. The Euro model, that was the Euro AI, shows the same similar situation, but it's lagging a little bit slower. I mean, this is well above average temperatures across the Midwest, the Mississippi Valley, down to the southern plains. But you can see big Arctic front moving in, and as we continue to move this forward, it's not as near as potent as the Euro AI model, and it actually modifies very quickly, but does show that secondary cold front with Arctic air moving down. And you look at the Euro Ensemble starting off December the 1st. It shows a big warm up after the first cold front. Getting into the last weekend of November, first couple days of December, not a big warm up, but warming on up. And then it shows colder air slipping across the northern plains. And it does show this trying to ooze eastward, but not a super strong signal. And it just still, all the way to the second, it shows colder temperatures out west, relatively warmer temperatures compared to average in the east. All right, so that's ensemble guidance, but does pick up on some sort of clashing right in that region right there, okay? Now, you look at the Euro AI ensemble, same thing, picking up on that secondary Arctic air mass dropping down. A little bit more of a stronger signal with this as we're getting into the 2nd of December. Shows a lot of cold air dropping down. You don't expect ensemble guidance to look as flashy as these operational runs, okay? Because those are just individual runs. This is kind of a smoothed out run of multiple members put together to create an ensemble run, an average, right? So that's a pretty strong signal of several degrees below average temperatures across the middle of the country as we're getting a few days into the months. It's just, is this going to get east? It looks like we are going to start out December in the east warmer than average. So let's move a little bit deeper into the month. And I will tell you, we're waking up to even a stronger signal of that December to remember. And, what's backing up that blast of Arctic air dropping into the west and the middle of the country? the last couple of days of November, first couple of days of December. Well, it's this. You see this big blob of blue. This is going to bring down cold air. It's a big dip in the jet, and it's going to bring down the potential for some energy that's going to reflect to the surface as rain or snow. And you see this ridge feature in the yellow-orange colors here. This is going to bring above average temperatures to really kickstart December for the east. This is the west and central. This is the east. Now watch how you have this big area in blue that moves. It's called a trough, and this is a ridge. It begins to reposition itself and kind of anchor itself more so over the northern tier of the country. And then we get a bit of a ridge building into the southwest, western U.S. I think this allows for the cold air to begin to spill more so into the eastern U.S. Behind this trough. But as we continue, and remember, the further out we go with this, the further out we get. So we're getting deeper. We're getting into the first full week of December, and it's around the 7th to the 8th. You see the blue showing up over more so southeastern Canada and then the eastern U.S., and then it really begins to amplify, and we get this spiking of the ridge in the west. Okay, ridge spiking, trough is digging. Okay, and I really think there's a lot of cold air being dislodged from the Arctic region with high latitude blocking, and we're going to explain why that's going to be the case here in a couple minutes. So cold air is going to drop down to what I think could be an active storm track. And we continue, and listen, the more you see this blue area dig down to the south, I know it doesn't mean a whole lot to people. Blue, immediately people think cold snow, and I don't blame you one bit. I mean, that's where my mind goes too. But we take it to the mid-month time frame, December, and I know that is just a decade out, right? But that is a strong signal, a much better signal compared to the few days ago. And we're getting closer, right? So if we're going in the right direction as we get closer, that's good. And I know I'm speaking as a snow weather fan, winter weather fan. And if you don't like that, I don't really have a whole lot for you. I'm always pulling for cold and snow. I'm a big winter weather fan. But that is a strong signal and across the eastern U.S. for just the potential for energy shooting down here, maybe meeting up with some southern stream action, and then clashing right here. We get a low pressure, cold air diving down into this active storm track. And yeah, I mean, that blue area is exactly what it seems. Probably colder than average temperatures and an active storm track. Blue symbolizes low pressure energy in the atmosphere. And this continues, guys. I mean, we got all the way out to the week of Christmas, and I mean, that is a strong, consistent signal all the way to the end of the year. So we've had a trend towards colder temperatures because of that better trend with the trough orientation. And we start off the week of December, and watch how the blue, colder temperatures begin to shift into the eastern U.S. and get even bluer. So, we go all the way to the week leading up to Christmas. The entire country looks to be dealing with below average temperatures. So this is a hefty signal, and it really starts to spike the deeper we get into December. And, if you look in the middle of the country, I'll show you the eastern U.S. here in a second. This is between now and December the 2nd. Okay, and we've already showed you this across the eastern U.S., but you can see that it's a decent signal for snow. But watch how we extend this another 15 days out. That's a huge change. So that's all the way out to the 2nd. This is all the way out to the 18th. Big change, right? Not a forecast. So, don't tell everybody and their brother's uncle's cow that, it's going to snow, a half an inch in Dallas. But, it's a stronger signal. And you go to the eastern U.S., it's even more impressive because of the warmer pattern we're going to have between now and then. That's between now and the 2nd. This is extending out all the way to the 17th. Look at that difference. You can tell there's something that happens. I know it's called winter. I know. I don't know what's up with all them comments, but I've seen a lot worse outlooks with this in the heart of winter. And then you go 32 days all the way out to 46, which pretty much takes us all the way to the 1st of January. That's a strong signal. The cold air outbreaks, or if it's an outbreak, whether or not it is or not sure. All this is supported by what we're seeing in the upper levels in the Arctic region. So you see this big blob of, red, orange, burgundy, white. This is warmer than average temperatures, in the upper levels, way miles up in the sky above the Arctic and polar region. So when you have a big warming over this area, it really disrupts the polar vortex, and it's going to dislodge a lot of cold air to the south, one side of the globe or the other. And I do think it'll come down to the lower 48 and the Canadian side of the globe. So we get this big spike in temperatures next week in this area, and then we get a secondary spike. And I really think this secondary spike is what's making this show up right here. It makes sense because this is the last couple of days of November to the first several days of December, and it's supported by what we're seeing here. That secondary significant, even more warming in the Arctic region. So, this, we call it the sudden stratospheric warming. And I think that we're going to start to introduce, and model guidance is going to begin to lock more and more into it, to just these kind of, I wouldn't call them outbreaks, but, shots of Arctic air. Last thing we'll wrap up is the MJO forecast, okay? This is huge. This is something that I just did not want to buy into at one point, but, at the end of the day, it backs up a lot of what we see, okay? And I'm trying to make sure we got everything here. It's the best thing you can look at here, and we haven't had an upgrade of this yet. An update is what I meant, but let's try to explain this in the best way where you guys can understand it, and really just try not to make this, complex, okay? 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 8. Okay, I don't know why I did it that way, but 7, 6, 5, and 4. These are phases. These are warm phases, okay? So you're probably going to have more of a warmer dominated pattern across the lower 48 than colder. Now, you can still get shots of cold air in these phases. For example, we got the shot of cold air in phase 5 and 6 last week when we were in these phases across the eastern U.S. A deep shot of cold air. It broke records. We had snow all the way down to Alabama, all the way down to Charlotte, etc. Phase 7 can definitely work out for cold Arctic air dropping into the lower 48. It's just, it's still a ridge-dominated pattern, especially for the eastern and southeastern U.S. Okay, phase 8, 1, 2, and 3 are in general colder phases. The position of that cold, it differs. We're not going to get too lost in the sauce and the details with that. But one thing I will say is phase 8 is really the golden phase for winter weather and cold weather chances across, especially the east and the central U.S., but really the majority of the country. So where are we right now? All right, you see the 5, 7, 9, that's of November. So that's behind us, right? What is it, the 18th? So it's hard to tell, but 11th, 13th, 15th, and everything gets jumbled up right here. We're right into here somewhere. So we're in phase 6, and the forcing is getting all jumbled up right now. And I really think we'll just hang out in this area, pretty much through the Thanksgiving period. Okay? But you can see we get fully into phase 7 probably in a couple days, or several days at the most. And then we start slow riding it through phase 7. See that 28, 30, that is November 28th to 30th. And then you start to see the 2, 4, 6, and got to look really hard, 12, 14, 16. That's getting into the month of December. So this purple area, that is December. So we're cruising through phase 7, right? And then right at around the mid-month time frame, we start to introduce phase 8. And it looks like we're just slow riding it through it. Now, it would be great if we can get this to really get out here and really just amplify this phase more. It's tucked more into this area right here. It's kind of a knoll, kind of what we call the circle of death. You're not going to feel the heaviest impacts of that favorable phase. But anyways, there's a chance that we can slow ride it through phase 8, 1, and maybe even 2 eventually, through the most favorable climo period of the year, which, the shortest days, late December, early January, into the later portion of January. That's when everything climo-wise is really working together. And if you get that mixed with the proper phase 8, phase 1, 2, etc., then you really open the door for a ceiling, a real big peak for winter weather across areas of the country. Now, that excites me because snow around the holidays, that's awesome. To me, it is. I know not everybody, it's their job. I get it. I totally get it. But it's going to take time. And I think the reason we are seeing better trends on the Euro weeklies, the extended, is because I think that models are starting to, it's going to be very slow, by the way, starting to catch on to phase 8 being introduced. So I think it's going to take time, but I think we're heading the right direction for winter weather fans. And, what's even more encouraging is, if you just look at the Euro itself, I mean, it looks like we're moving through this fast. The actual Euro, has it right in the middle of phase 7 already, all the way on December 1st. So if it keeps on picking up that speed, we'll get to phase 8 faster. But you don't want to roll through all the more favorable phase too quick, though. So, yeah, that's all I got. Sorry I don't have a daily forecast video for today. I'm running behind. It took a while to get this video together. So I'm going to have to leave you guys hanging with that. I do apologize. And we'll get back to the Bible devotion tomorrow. God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk again soon.